Closers are going extinct. The closer role is one of the most emblematic roles in baseball. Legends like Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, and Lee Smith made Hall of Fame careers out of getting the last outs of a game and earning a save. But nowadays, closers are an endangered species. The game is changing, and the closer role is in danger of becoming irrelevant. Closers are usually the best relief pitcher on the team, and they specialize in getting the last outs of the game. The last 3 outs of a game are special. Technically, they are just like any other out of the game, but the situation and the environment makes them more challenging. It is the last chance for the losing team to make a comeback and win the game. It is when fans are most engaged with the game. They know that either the game is going to end and they are going to go home happy, or they are going to be disappointed. In the 9th inning, everyone is holding their breath. The pressure is high and the stakes are high. If a closer blows the save, all the effort and work his team made that day is gone. Everything can change in the last 3 outs of the game. Closers are synonymous with saves. It is how they make their money. Saves are to closers what no other stat is to any other position. You can use home runs, RBI, OPS+, or WRC+, among many others, to measure if a hitter is good or not. But with closers, the first thing you look at is saves. Yes, there are other stats that matter for closers, but the number one stat for closers is saves. It is not the best stat to identify the value of a relief pitcher, since earning a save is not entirely up to the pitcher. A lot of things need to happen for a pitcher to be able to get into the game in a save situation. But as I have said, it is the stat for closers. Now that I have stated the importance of a save for closers, what is a save? In 1969, the save became an official stat. But what is the criteria to earn a save? Well, according to MLB.com, to earn it, a pitcher must finish the game for a winning team while entering the game with a lead of no more than 3 runs and pitching an inning. Or enter the game with the tying run in the on-deck circle at the plate or on the bases. Or pitch at least 3 innings to end the game. For my research, I used 10 saves as the minimum requirement for a relief pitcher to be considered a closer. In 1969, saves became an official stat, but closers weren't very popular back then in the 70s. The average amount of saves for a closer who had at least more than 10 saves was 17. In the 70s, John Hiller had the most saves in a season with 38 in 1973. That year, only 5 closers had more than 20 saves, and only Hiller and Mike Marshall had more than 30. In the 70s, only 16 times a closer had more than 30 saves. In the 2000s, the height of the closer era, there were 163. Rollie Fingers had the most saves in the 70s with 207, but the closer of the 70s was Mike Marshall. The righty was the first reliever to win the Cy Young Award when he won it in 1974. He also finished in the top 4 in Cy Young voting in the 70s. Marshall was not the only reliever to win a Cy Young in the 70s. Bruce Sutter and Sparky Lyle also won the award. In the 80s, closers were starting to become more prevalent in the game. The average amount of saves per closer rose to 20, and there were 55 times in which a player had reached 30 or more saves. The best season by a closer in the 80s came in 1986 by New York Yankees closer David Righetti, who had 46 saves and finished 4th in Cy Young voting that season. Righetti had 188 saves in the 80s, 62 less than the best closer of the 80s, Jeff Reardon, who had 250. The 80s were very good for relievers in terms of awards. Steve Bedrosian, Mark Davis, Willie Hernandez, and Rollie Fingers won the Cy Young Award. Fingers even won the first ever MVP for a reliever in the 1981 season. The 90s is the beginning of the golden age of closers. The average amount of saves per closer went up to 26, and the times a closer had 30 or more saves in a season skyrocketed to 131. The closer was an integral part of the game, and it was here to stay. These numbers are impressive considering the 1994 strike-shortened season. No closer had more success in the 90s in terms of saves than John Wetterland. He played for the Dodgers, Expos, Yankees, and Rangers in the 90s and had 295 saves. He reached 43 saves in the 1993 with the Expos and again in 1996 for the Yankees. In 1997, Lee Smith retired with a then all-time record 478 saves. He is currently third all-time in saves. Dennis Eckersley had the second most saves in the 90s with 293. He was outstanding for the A's, Cardinals, and Red Sox. He had 51 saves in the 1992 season with a 94% save completion. He won the Cy Young and the MVP, the second ever MVP for a reliever. The 2000s was the peak for closers. The average amount of saves per closer went up to 27, and the amount of times in which a closer reached 30 or more saves rose up to 163. The 2000s were especially important because of two players, Trevor Hoffman and the greatest closer of all time, Mariano Rivera. Hoffman and Rivera had 1,253 combined saves. Hoffman was a 7-time All-Star, and in 2018 he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He finished in the top 5 of Cy Young voting 3 times in his career. Hoffman has a career ERA plus of 141 and a K per 9 of 9.4. You cannot talk about closers in the 2000s without mentioning Francisco Rodriguez. The Venezuelan closer is 6th all-time with 437 saves in his career and was a 6-time All-Star. K-Rod is one of the best closers of all time, and in 2008 with the Angels he set the single-season saves record at 62. He has the most saves for a closer through age 26 of all time with 206. Another closer from the 2000s I must mention is Eric Gagne. From 2002 to 2004 he was untouchable. He has the most saves over a 3-year stretch by any closer in MLB history, with 152 saves. He finished in the top 10 in Cy Young Award voting all 3 years and won the award in 2003. He is the most recent winner of the award, and it looks like he will be the last. Saving the best for last, Mariano Rivera was born in Panama. He made his debut for the New York Yankees in 1995 and played his entire 19-year career for the Pinstripes. He was inducted in 2019 to the Hall of Fame with the perfect 100% voting percentage, the only player to ever accomplish that feat. Rivera finished top 5 in Cy Young voting 5 times in his career. He is a 13-time All-Star and 5-time World Series champion. Mariano Rivera is arguably one of the best pitchers of all time in the postseason, where he has a .70 ERA with 110 strikeouts and 42 saves in 96 appearances. Rivera has a career ERA plus of 205. Rivera is the all-time saves leader with 652. When the Sandman came into the game, opposing players started packing their bags. The game was over. Mariano threw one pitch, a wicked cutter nobody could hit. Rivera is the greatest closer of all time. The 2010s were still great for closers. The average amount of saves was slightly lower at 26. And the amount of times in which a closer reached 30 or more saves was 154, the second best decade just behind the 2000s. The 2010s also have the season with the most closers reaching 30 plus saves. In 2015, there were 21 closers with 20 plus saves. The 2010s was a new era for closers. Hoffman retired in 2010 and Rivera in 2013, and they passed the baton to some worthy successors. The leader in saves of the 2010s was Craig Kimbrell with 345, the second highest amount in a decade behind Mariano in the 2000s. The 2010s had some very good closers, so let's talk about them. Number 3 on the list of most saves in the 2010s is Aroldis Chapman with 272 saves. Aroldis Chapman is 20th all-time in saves, and he might not reach the top 10 by the end of his career. But he will go down in history as one of the most memorable relief pitchers of all time thanks to his fastball. On September 24th, 2010, the Cuban missile threw the hardest pitch ever recorded at 105.8. He was 22 at the time. On August 7, 2024, Chapman threw a fastball 105.1 miles per hour, the fastest of the 2024 season at age 36. His ability to light up the radar gun plus his health and longevity have made him one of the most recognizable closers of all time. Number 2 on the list is Kenley Jansen. The catcher turned pitcher from Curaçao has been one of the best closers since his debut in 2010. And even at the age of 36, he continues to pitch effectively. Jansen sits 4th all-time in saves and is just 34 saves behind number 3, Lee Smith. I think he has a very good chance to pass him since he's still a very good closer. He has an ERA plus of 157 in 2024, and he's probably going to keep pitching for a couple of years. Jansen has a career ERA plus of 156, which is higher than Lee Smith and Trevor Hoffman. I don't think he'll surpass Hoffman in saves, but he's going to go down as a top 3 closer of all time. Before talking about Kimbrel, I want to briefly mention other great closers of the 2010s. Fernando Rodney had 252 saves in the 2010s and 327 over his 17-year career. He played for 11 different teams, so think about him when playing Immaculate Grid. Jonathan Papelbon had 217 saves in the 2010s and 368 over his career with Red Sox, Phillies, and Nationals. He is a 6-time All-Star and won the 2007 World Series. Another brief mention is Zach Britton. The Southpaw had arguably one of the most dominant 3-year stretches of all time from 2014 to 2016. He had 120 saves in 128 save opportunities. He also had an ERA plus of .299 over that 3-year span. His best season came in 2016, where he had an ERA of .59, an ERA plus of .803, with a perfect 47 for 47 in save opportunities. He finished 4th in Cy Young voting. The last player I want to mention is Houston Street. He had 186 saves in the 2010s, 324 over his career, and in the first ever baseball game I went to, he refused to throw me a baseball, so I will never forget that. The best of the 2010s was Craig Kimbrel. Kimbrel is 5th in saves all time with 440 saves. Unlike Jansen, he has a chance to break the top 3 in saves. Unlike Jansen, he has lost his effectiveness at age 36. In 2024, he has 23 saves with an ERA plus of 97 for the Baltimore Orioles. Things are not looking great for Kimbrel right now, but back in 2011, he was looked as Rivera's heir. He led the NL in saves from 2011 to 2014. He had 185 saves in 4 years. Those 4 years would have put him 8th overall in the 2010s. Over that 4-year stretch, he had an ERA plus of .252, an ERA of 1.51. He had a save percentage of 90%. And a K per 9 of 14.6. He did all that in his early 20s. Mariano Rivera earned his first save at age 26. Kimbrel had 186 saves at age 26, which is the second most of all time at that age behind Francisco Rodriguez. It looked like he was going to shatter Mariano's record, but after turning 30, he has only gotten 107 saves. Mariano had 523 after his 30th birthday. Hopefully, Kimbrel can find a second gear and finish his career strong, but regardless, he's one of the best closers of all time. The 2020s had a very rough start. The pandemic-shortened 2020 season hurts the numbers a lot. In the 60-game 2020 season, the saves leader was Brad Hand with 16. There were only 10 players with 10 or more saves. The saves leader of the 2020s is Emmanuel Clase with 143. The 2020s has had some very good closers like Clase, Josh Hader, Kenley Jansen, and Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz has been one of the best closers in recent history. He has 219 saves in his career and has the biggest contract for a reliever in MLB history. In his 8 seasons in the big leagues, he has only had an ERA plus below 117 once, in his first year with the Mets in 2019. Diaz has had some of the best seasons by a reliever in the last decade. He has the second most saves in a season with 57 in 2018. In 2022, he finished top 10 in Cy Young voting after a spectacular campaign, earning 32 saves with a .297 ERA plus and a K per 9 of 17.1. His best campaign in terms of saves came in the last decade in 2018 when he had 57 saves when he was with the Mariners. Josh Hader has been one of the best relievers in the game in the last couple of years. He has the second most saves in the 2020s with 143. Since his debut in 2017, he's had only one campaign with an ERA plus below 120. He has a career ERA plus of 162 and 193 saves and a career K per 9 of 14.8. Hader started as a multi-inning reliever and did not become a full-time closer until his third year in the big leagues. Hader is a 5-time All-Star, 3-time Reliever of the Year award winner, and has the second largest contract for a reliever in MLB history. Kenley Jansen has the third most saves in the 2020s. I already talked a lot about Kenley Jansen, so I will keep this very brief. He's still very effective and he does not look like slowing down. The best closer of the 2020s has been Emmanuel Clase. The Dominican closer has a devastating cutter and averages 99.4 miles per hour. He has 149 saves in the 2020s and has led the league in saves since 2022. He is on his way to his third consecutive 40-plus save campaign. Only 10 closers in history have achieved 3 consecutive seasons with 40-plus saves. 2024 has been the best year of his career. He has an ERA of .59, an ERA plus of 7.14, and the highest save percentage of his career. He has the 5th most saves at age 26 or younger, and he's the best candidate to be Mariano Rivera's heir, thanks to his youth, effectiveness, and his devastating cutter, like Mariano. Predicting what will happen over the next decade is very hard, and the shortened 2020 season only makes things worse. It will bring down numbers and averages for this decade, so some people will use it as an excuse for the regression of closers. But 2020 is not the only year in which saves numbers have faltered in the 2020s. In the 2015 season, there were 21 closers that had 30 or more saves. In the 2023 season, only 12 players had 30 plus saves. In 2024, only 3 closers have reached 30 saves, and there are only 7 closers with 25 or more. So even if all 7 get 30 plus saves, there will be 5 less closers with 30 plus saves compared to last season. It will be the lowest amount in a full season since 1987. The decline can be seen since the 2015 season, which is the only season in history with more than 20 closers getting 30 plus saves. That number went down to 16 in 2016, and in the following years it hasn't been higher than 12. I made a graph to show the number of players with 30 plus saves in seasons in the first year of each decade. From 2021 to 2023, there have been 31 30 plus save campaigns, which is the lowest in the first 3 years of a decade since the 80s. Everything seems to indicate that closers are an endangered species. The amount of 30 plus save seasons per decade and the average amount of saves per closers is the lowest since the 1980s, and it has been trending down, and the first few years of the 2020s indicate that the downward trend will continue. The future of closers is not very bright, but there are certainly some bright spots. There are some young closers like Camilo Doval, Ben Joyce, and Mason Miller that could develop into household names and finish towards the top in saves in the 2020s. There are also some veteran closers that are chasing a spot among the best closers of all time, such as Craig Kimbrell and Kenley Jansen. But maybe the most intriguing closer today is Emmanuel Clase, who could become a top 5 closer of all time and chase Mariano Rivera's record of 652 saves. The golden age of closers is done. I don't think we will ever see another closer win a Cy Young award, and elite closers are going to be less and less every season. I hope that closers remain a part of the game because regardless of their value, they're a very exciting part of the game. Hearing the entrance of an elite closer and knowing that the game is probably over for the other team is a great feeling and a great watch. Saves are not a great stat. They are very flawed and do not represent the actual value of a reliever. But like wins and losses and RBI, they are a part of the game history, and the all-time saves record is something every closer dreams of. Only time will tell if it can be broken. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. See you next time.